The concept of monotheism, since the creation of man on earth, has been the foundation of all divine messages. There is a big difference between the ancient communities, the pagans who worshipped idols, and we who pay tribute and respect to the Prophet and Imam Ali and Imam Hussein when we call upon them as a gate to Allah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. All our thanks and our gratitude is due to Him, our Lord, the Lord who is a creator, the Lord who is cherisher and sustainer. May His peace and blessings be upon the seal of the messengers, Muhammad and his family and his righteous companions, and upon you all, my friends, my brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In this session of monotheism, we discuss a controversial issue within the Islamic circles and Islamic scholars. And that issue is called Tafweeth. What does Tafweeth mean? The simple meaning of Tafweeth, it's authorization. It is delegation, that God delegates through a proxy, through a representative. He delegates some of His power, some of His authority, some of His control, some of His management to certain people. Now, some people believe, and part of those were the polytheists, the mushrikeen of Arabia. They used to worship the jinn, they used to worship the angels, because they thought that God has resigned His post and He delegated His authority and His power and His management and His role, basically, to the angels. And they are in full charge and full control. Listen to this, in full charge and full control. At-Tafweeth al-Kamil. And that God never interferes in their business. And these objects, some of them the constellation, the stars, or the malaika, the angels, it is them who administer and direct and control this universe by their own power, by their own jurisdiction. And God stays away from them. This idea definitely is shirk. This is disbelief in God. This is compromising His sovereignty and ultimately His monotheism, His tawheed. And thus the Holy Quran says in Surah Al-Baqarah 165, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا. Among the people who are polytheists, they take other than God as equals to God, andadan, or counterparts, or peers, andadan, rivals. يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. They love them the same way they love God. So they take them as andad, peers, or counterparts, and they say God has resigned His post and His duties, and He delegated these affairs, He authorized them, He transferred them, if you will, from Himself, His jurisdiction, into their jurisdiction. So they are in one who are in full charge and full control of the universe. Definitely this idea is unacceptable. This idea is from the heart of polytheism, shirk, and nothing but shirk and apostasy. Now, because we believe that God is in charge, He never resigns His post. And we have scores and scores and scores of the verses in the Quran that accentuates the concepts of God being in charge. Mudabbir, yudabbir. He is the one who manages. He is the one who controls, administers. And there are two types of tafweeth that we reject. We don't accept in Islam. One, التفويض التكويني. Second, التفويض التشريعي. التفويض التكويني, it means the type of delegation and authorization and a proxy that God has given, let's say, certain entities in this universe, the stars, the angels, or human beings, to manage the affairs of the universe, such as what? The affairs of the people, such as life, death, sustenance, rizq, health, fortune, everything else. This is at-tashri' at-takwini. The rain, nuzul al-matar. So this is what they believe, that God, you have to ask the star for rain. Ask this wali or this prophet, ask him for rain, ask him for food, ask him for shelter, because God has nothing to do with him. Although God created the system, but He transferred His power from Himself to them. So He does not interfere in their life. And they have full authorization, full tafweeth, full jurisdiction. That is shirk, remember. Now you may tell me then, where does Jesus and the story of Jesus, where does it fall here? Jesus was, God gave Him power of creation. Yes, God gave Him that power. And Jesus, He Himself, He says in Surah Al-Imran 49, إِنِّي أَخْلُقُ لَكُم مِّنَ الطِّينِ كَهَيْئَةِ الطَّيْرِ فَيَكُونُ طَيْرًا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. Not that God resigned His post. God does interfere. I am under the supervision of God. God did not retire. God is still in charge. God is still in charge, in control. However, He gave me authority to do specific thing at a specific time. Not that He told me, oh Isa, you take care of this, you are in charge, and let me go and rest. God does not do that. God gave him a specific power at a specific time for a specific purpose. إني أخلق لكم من الطين كهيئة الطير فأنفخ فيه فيكون طيرا بإذن الله. But not independent from God, depending on God and dependent on God. This is Iman. Because this power that God has given to Jesus, it's not on His power. It's not His power. It is God's power. The power belongs to God. Isa was only an agent or a wasita, the means to execute it. Isa was executor, not originator of power. He was not the generator of power. The generator of that power and that privilege was God. Isa was only an executor for a specific reason. That's the difference. So it is not tafweeth. The idea of tafweeth is when God says, listen, I'm going to retire and I give you all the keys to you. You are in charge now. I'm not in charge anymore. I'm not going to interfere. I only created the universe. But running the affairs of the universe, I give it to the angels, give it to the imams, give it to the prophets. God would never say that. This is wrong. This is shirk. Then we have another type of tafweeth, which is also unacceptable. At-tafweeth al-tashri'i, that God delegates his affairs in the first part, Taqwini, to run the affairs of the universe. This one, Tashri'i, to run the religious affairs, meaning making law, legislation. God says, I am resigning my post, I am retiring, and you guys, you decide what is halal and what is haram. It's not me. Also, this one is unacceptable and rejected, completely rejected. This is also shirk, apostasy. At-tafweeth at-tashri'i. That God completely delegates tashri', legislation, and he doesn't interfere. See, with this condition, he does not interfere. The question of legislation, lawmaking, even shafa'ah, even forgiveness, he says, oh Muhammad, you take care of that, and let me stay away from it. I am not into this. This is complete tafweeth, absolute tafweeth and delegation, which God never do. And it never happens, because God is always in charge. And I said in the previous lesson, لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. Neither slumber takes over him, nor sleep. He's awake, because he's tending to his responsibilities and his duties. Listen to Surah At-Tawbah, verse 31. Listen to the Quranic term, very precise. اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم. Some people of the book, they took their priest and their anachronites, rabbis, to be their lords, arbaban, to be their lords, meaning they treated them as being lords and divines, arbaban min dunillah, other than God. So they put God aside and they took those as arbab. In derogation of Allah, arbaban min dunillah. So they said God has no role anymore. Whatever you tell me, I believe in you. In another example I gave earlier in the previous sessions, Man ata'a al-Rasul faqad ata'a Allah. You listen to the prophets, you are listening to God. Meaning the prophet is the way to God, the gate to God. He's working for God. Not that God resigned his post and he's not interfering anymore. No, God is in action. God is always in action. He's supervising the prophet. He's commanding the prophet. That's different. That example is different. In this example of Ahbar and Ruhban, the priest and the anachronites and the cardinals and the rabbis, people are obeying, listening to them, considering them to be arbaban, lords. And God has nothing to do with them. They are independent from the Lord, not dependent. This is shirk. See, there is a very, fine line, fine thread between iman and shirk. If you cross into this side, it's shirk. If you stay there, it's iman. Very fine line, by the way, very delicate. So you have to be very precise. You have to have accurate precision to be able to understand and distinguish between iman and shirk. Iman is you believe in the Prophet, you listen to the Prophet, you obey the Prophet, because the Quran says so. Man ata'a al-Rasula faqad ata'a Allah. While the Prophet is working for God, he's not disconnected from God. In this example, Surah At-Tawbah 31, some of the people of book, اتخذوا, they took their priest arbaban. It means they were disconnected from God. The priests were disconnected and they took them as the new lords. That's the difference. And this is shirk. God does not resign his post and he delegates his affairs to the Prophet and say, "Oh Prophet Muhammad, you take care of shafa'ah, intercession. You take care of forgiveness, maghfirah, and pardoning people. I am away, I am staying away." He doesn't do that. Because the Holy Quran says, وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Who else can forgive the sins other than God? Prophet Muhammad does not forgive. He does not forgive the sins. It is God who forgives. Prophet Muhammad's job is to petition to God, not to execute, to petition. The executor of forgiveness and pardoning is God himself. وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Therefore, even when people come to Prophet Muhammad, listen to this, وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ إِذْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ جَاءُوكَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا اللَّهِ. Focus on this. They seek forgiveness from God, not from you, Ya Rasulullah. You are the pathway, the road, the channel that takes them to God. You don't forgive them. God is the one who forgives them. فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا اللَّهِ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولِ. It means the Prophet became the channel of forgiveness for them, petitioning to God. وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولِ لَوَجَدُوا اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا. The same thing when it comes to the shafa'ah. مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ. Not that God has made tafweeth. He said, listen, you have full jurisdiction, full rights. I'm not even going to interfere in your business. God never does this for anyone, neither Prophet Muhammad nor any other prophet or imam or a star or moon or sun or angel. He wouldn't do that. God is always in charge. Remember, God is in action. God is in charge. God does not get tired. God does not have any retirement plan for him. We all retire. God does not retire. He's always working. And therefore, listen to this verse. It's very critical. وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. This is in Surah Yunus, which is chapter 10, verse 18. وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. The mushrikeen, this is one of the verses that Wahhabism uses against Shia Islam. They say, they argue that, see what the Quran says? The Quran says, you guys, you don't go to God, you go to your imams. But look at the verse, and look at the meaning of the verse. The verse says, وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. The polytheists, they worship beside God. Do we worship the imams beside God? Do we worship them? Do we do ibadah of our imams? We don't do ibadah. This is number one. We don't do ibadah. Number two, we don't do it beside God. We do it with God. Bi'idhnillah. The imam is the channel to God. He's not independent from God. I have said this millions of times so far. The imam is not working independently from God. He's not a sovereign. He doesn't have an entity rivaling God, parallel with God. He's working for God. He doesn't have anything of his own. Everything of his belongs to God. So the imam is not rivaling God. So you cannot say we are worshipping the imams min dunillah. First of all, we are not worshipping them. We are greeting them. We are respecting them. And there is a difference between a greeting and respect on the one hand and worshipping on the other hand. Big difference. And I explained that, elaborate on that in many sessions. Second, it's not min dunillah. It is bi'idhnillah. وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَضُرُّهُمْ وَلَا يَنْفَعُهُمْ. Things that neither benefit them nor harm them. Things that are useless. وَيَقُولُونَ هَؤُلَاءِ شُفَعَاؤُنَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. They say those are the intercessors with God. So they worship them other than God, beside God, and then at the end of the day they come and they say, they worship them first, They worship the idols first, beside God second, and then at the end of the day they say they will intercede for us with God. Doesn't work. Does not work, because you were worshiping them, number one, and it was beside God, min dunillah, because you believe that they have their own independent power and authority. They're going to help you. وَيَقُولُونَ هَؤُلَاءِ شُفَعَاؤُنَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. So they believe in their divinity and their lordship. Then the Quran says, قُلْ أَتُنَبِّئُونَ اللَّهَ بِمَا لَا يَعْلَمُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى عَمَّا يُشْرِكُونَ. Are you teaching God something that He doesn't know in the heaven and the earth? Sanctified be God against their polytheism. There is a big difference between going to someone thinking that he has the power of shafa'ah by himself independently from God, which is shirk. This is shirk. This is polytheism. Or going to him believing that the right of shafa'ah it belongs to God, However, God gives permission. There is a big difference. God gives permission. So haqqu shafa'ah, the right of intercession, is not with the Prophet, is with God. Originally with God. However, God gives the green light, the permission, the idhn to the Prophet to exercise it. And if he wants to take it away from him, he can take it any minute. And the Prophet cannot say no, because it's not his own right. Imagine someone tells me, these are my home keys with you. It's my home, my property. However, I leave the keys with you whenever you want to use the house, use it. And whenever I need to retrieve the keys and take them back from you, I will come and take them back. You have no right to say why, because this is not your property. This is not your right. So he can come back and take it from me. And I can't say no, this is mine, because it is his right. He gives it to me and he takes it away. The same thing with shafa'ah. Shafa'ah is the right that belongs to God. He bestows this on certain people, and whenever he wants to take it back, he takes it back. And he denies other, he doesn't give them this right. And nobody can say why, because it's not their right. It is God's right. So at the end of the day, the absolute tafweeth is rejected. God does not delegate his complete authority to someone, whether this authority is takwini, administrating the affairs of the universe, or tashri'i, lawmaking, legislation. And he says, I don't interfere. You legislate. You tell the people what is halal and haram. Away from me. He neither do both of them. Neither the first one nor the second one. And I'll have one more session on the controversial issue of at-tafweeth next time, inshallah ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.